imagination and fantasy.
Yeah.
There's so much imagination, there's so much fantasy and flair. Imagination and flair, lack a bit of imagination, fantasy, imagination and fantasy.
Yeah.
There's so much imagination, with so much fantasy and flair. Imagination and flair, lack a bit of imagination and fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. Good evening. Welcome back to another special edition of the Sokkah podcast. And today it's not the Sokkah podcast per se, but it is the footy podcast because AFL player Brandon Strarcevich for the Brisbane Lions has joined us. And you might, if you're watching on YouTube as well, Trent's not here today. He has his mum's birthday. So hi to Ethan Petta as well.
Hello. And today I'll start off by introducing our guest, AFL phenomenon this year, as he calls himself, and a good friend of mine, Brandon Strarcevich from the Brisbane Lions. He started the year really well, and he's also the only bloke I've ever seen walk on water.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Joe, Trent. Sorry you couldn't be here. Better will have to do, but thanks for having me.
Now, Stars, first 2 years playing in the AFL, didn't get too many games, but now 2020, yeah, that's the year today. Like you've been smashing it. What's the secret, like, for this season? And like, where's this improvement come from, really?
I think it's just been getting my body right. That sort of limited me especially last year. A few injuries that were interrupting me and my consistency with footy. So I put a bit of focus into that in the off season, get my body right, and it's paid dividends so far.
Now, the question on everybody's lips, especially where I work, is who's winning this week, Carlton or Essendon?
Oh, it's really interesting. Carlton, last weekend, I went to the room after the game and found out Carlton had beaten Geelong down at Kardinia Park. I was blown away. So whether that's a flash in the pan or not, they can go again this week. But yeah, I'll go Carlton.
Yeah, good man.
Carlton to get them.
Because actually last week, I wanted to watch your game against the Eagles, but Carlton was playing at the same time. I was like, do I watch Stars because we're having him on the podcast, or do I watch the Mighty Blues? But the Blues just edgy up there. So yeah. But before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to our 2 sponsors. We got Vintage Soccer Shirts Australia. They've given me a nice Tottenham vintage Cuppa shirt to wear today, which is awesome. You can buy that at vintagesoccershirtsau.com. And you can use the promo code Sokkah, that's SOKKAH, for 10% off at the discount. And our second sponsor, Dennis at Streamgate Australia. If you have any streaming needs, if you have an event you want to film or anything, you can get in touch with Dennis at Streamgate Live Streaming Australia. So, Stars, we'll start from the start with you, with your AFL career. What was the whole process like getting drafted and speaking to like teams and everything, and what's that process there like?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty overwhelming for an 18-year-old. I was still at school, so it was pretty big. Took away from school on that, but yeah, it's pretty overwhelming having to sit down with clubs and do interviews. You're in a room with 3, 4 sometimes. Sat down, there's 10 blokes in a room, all talking footy about you, grilling you. So it can be pretty confronting at times, but yeah, I'm better for it. So it's certainly very daunting. Clubs flying over to meet your family, they come in your house and that. So that part of it was pretty scary, but you get used to it after a while if you do a couple. And just head to the draft combine. I was lucky enough to go to the national. I wasn't able to test though, which was a bit frustrating. I did a quad 4 weeks before, so I wasn't able to test. But yeah, so it was a good experience as well. You sort of get to rub shoulders with a few of the other boys who are trying to get drafted as well. So that was pretty cool. And then I came back to WA and tested in the national state combine.
So I've heard a story. Sorry, I'll cut you off.
No, yeah.
I've heard a story that during your Year 12 exams, you actually walked out on quite a few quite early. Is that right?
Maybe 1 or 2. That's just a little bit. The religion one definitely straight up and out there.
Yeah. I actually think religion made it into my top 4 somehow. So big old Mr. Sarah.
Credit to you. So you hate me.
So yeah, we'll start like talking to like soccer because like our audience is probably just hating me at the moment, having like two footy guys on. But both you guys are wearing United. Petta, I'll start with you. Why there's such a tight Manchester United shirt you're wearing
now? It's probably the last soccer shirt I've ever worn as well, from about 4 years ago with Di Maria on the back, and you can probably tell that I would have been a bit smaller and younger back then, and it was probably the last time I've watched a United game. It's probably a good thing because every weekend I wake up in the morning and check the scores. Well, that's what we'll tell people anyway. I wake up in the weekend, check the scores, and we've drawn or lost to a bottom 10 side over and over again. So I've almost lost faith in us, I think.
How about you, Stars? You're wearing a United kit as well.
Yeah. This is just me. I don't know when this is, about mid-17. So we're on cricket tour. 16. It's on cricket tour. So, yeah.
So like I
know for a while.
Like I know like at GWS Giants there's like a massive like soccer culture there at the club. What's it like at Brisbane? Do like any of the lads there like soccer or anything, or do you guys like watch Brisbane Raw play or anything like that?
Yeah, everyone actually gets around it a fair bit. There's a few boys that get around the Raw. Like Alan Christensen's one. He really loves the A-League. I think he's a Melbourne City supporter, I think, but he goes to the Raw games. But and every now and then, when we were allowed to train all together, Monday recovery sessions used to involve a bit of soccer. Everyone looked forward to that. So it was pretty fun.
Who's the best soccer player at Brisbane? I'll just throw in that.
It's probably Danny Sokkah. You can imagine he's a little nugget, runs around close to the ground, got the agility and everything. Yeah, he's pretty handy.
No, so like I was talking to this like before with you, but like what kind of lessons do you think as like a footballer like that, like what can you learn from soccer? So can it be like better agility or like a better like soccer kick, for example, when you're playing footy? Are there like anything like that you've like ever considered?
I think agility is probably the biggest one. Those guys with their feet are unbelievable. I was watching a lot of the Liga games and Bundesliga games that were on the last month or so. Foxtel, so those guys are unbelievable with their feet, and especially like even the big guys like I guess they're probably about my height. The centre backs today, and they're just unbelievable keeping up with those guys. So, but then also I think from a tactical sort of standpoint, I think like the pressing as well. So most teams try to play a 18-man press when they can. So I think that's something that footy's taken from football or soccer.
Yeah, like that would be interesting to see. Like to see AFL clubs like copy some like soccer tactics, maybe like a counter-attacking kind of style. Maybe it's like less stuff when they won the league. They just like defend really well and then they just like explode with like I think long kick.
Yeah, a lot of teams work to do that. They try and beat you out the back a bit. Like they put a lot of numbers back and then just try and beat you back in play. So I don't know if it's direct from soccer or whatever, but there are parts of the game that sort of.
Petta, are there any like tactics you'd like to see from soccer adopted in the AFL?
I think the park the bus one. Well, I used to love watching teams have 40 blokes behind the ball in the last minute, but you can't do it anymore. So they're just trying to ruin the game, I think.
That was a Louis Van Gaal special. Just get a goal and park it.
No, I think on the weekend Carlton tried to park the bus for the last quarter, but like that just didn't work at all.
Didn't work.
We conceded, I think, 9 goals that last quarter, and we were extremely lucky to get that epic W. But like, what about the other way around? So, what lessons do you think soccer can take from AFL stars? Like, at corner kicks, should like attackers try take a specky and like head the ball in maybe instead of mark it?
I don't know. That's probably a good point. Could be something. I don't know. I don't really know if that's much correlation the other way. I can't think of much. I don't know. You got anything, Petta? I can't remember much.
Probably upset a few fans, but maybe a bit of the toughness.
What are you trying to say, mate? We've just lost all that audience now. You've just been so
It's the first episode on, and I've ruined the entire show.
You'll never come back again. Yeah, I haven't got much for you.
Yeah. But anyway, obviously, like the coronavirus, COVID-19, that's impacted both like AFL and like the A-League as well. And there's been rumours that a hub will be implemented in the A-League as well. I think in Sydney or something. You're in a hub right now, Stas. Is that right? So you're still in Brisbane, but do you play in the Gold Coast one?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess not really living too much of a hub life. I'm not locked in a hotel or anything. But yeah, at home, I have to abide by strict protocols and that. So
it's like
yeah,
one common factor from both the AFL and the A-League is the coronavirus testing. What's that like, getting like this massive thing like stuck up your nose? Because like that just like creeps me out a lot.
Yeah, the first time, I remember the first time we did it, I was going in with my two housemates, and we were, because you just don't know what you're getting. Like, but I guess I've gotten used to it now. They go down the throat as well, and then bang up the nose. But it depends. Some of the girls you get are good at like be nice to you. Some of them will really go up and feel they're poking your brain. Yeah,
that makes me feel so uneasy.
Yeah, no, it's not. I close my eyes when I do it, so it's over and done pretty. It's over and done pretty quick. It's over and done in like 2 seconds, but.
Yeah, just weird. It's like anything going down my throat or like up my nose. Yeah, I'm not enjoying that at all.
No.
But yeah, like another common thing with AFL and the A-League as well is the empty crowds. You've played 2 games now in the empty stadium. What's that like? And like, do you think it's like impacted the games and like the way you played as well without a crowd behind you?
Yeah, I think so. Especially round 1 at the MCG against Hawthorn. It was obviously we hadn't really done it before. It's weird running out onto the ground preparing for an AFL game and then there's no one there. So yeah, it was a bit different. You had to sort of create your own energy out there on the ground, and I think that's sort of why one of the reasons that Hawthorn probably got the better of it, because they were like just all day at it. At the start of the game, everyone, the teams were up and about. They sustained it for a longer period of time. They would create their own energy and feeding off it. So I think that's what we learned on in round 2 back at the Gabba against Freo. We knew that would be a big focus for us. But then now we've got the crowds coming back, so we don't have to articulate it too much ourselves.
Oh, is that this week? The crowds are coming back in Brisbane?
Yeah, we had 2,000 last week, and then now we got 10,000 today. This week.
Like those are just like average numbers for like a Brisbane Raw game, so that should just put the A-League at the over, I think.
Just play a curtain raiser or something.
But now, obviously, during like the shutdown and everything, you were actually live streaming yourself playing. Was it like PS4 or Xbox?
Yeah, that PlayStation. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the games you were playing was FIFA. I saw every now and then. What's your, like? Who's your go-to club in FIFA? And yeah, like how long have you played FIFA? Is it like career mode, ultimate team? What's the go there?
Yeah, so I reckon I started playing. I reckon FIFA 13. FIFA 13 or 14 was the first one I really smashed out, and like my career mode was like 2024 or something. Absolutely just smashed it. But yeah, but lately, yeah, I was playing. Played a lot of Ultimate Team the last 2, 19, 20. So I was playing a fair bit of that, but I'm off it a bit now. It's too sweaty now. So
you don't buy packs, do you?
No, not a lot. Sometimes I did during lockdown. I got a bit tempted and bought a couple, but yeah, when I was bored, but I won't talk about it. Yeah, so I was playing. When I was on there, I was playing some pro clubs as well. That's really fun. I played last night as well. Pro clubs is really fun. But,
who's in that pro club team? Are there any other AFL footballers in there, or?
No, it's just a couple of old friends.
That's a fellow.
Old boys. Like Will
Petta in there?
No, Petta's not in there.
No chance.
He's not good.
The last game of FIFA I played, Joe, was a 1-0 win over Brandon, and I scored direct from a corner. So I thought I'd retire on a good note.
I reckon I beat you. I reckon I beat you at Club 87 not too long ago.
Oh. we won't lie. We won't lie to the listeners.
So what else have I got for your stuff? I'm thinking. Moving away from Perth. Now we've spoken to like a few like soccer players, like Australians that like moved to Europe and being like so far away from like their family and stuff. How have you adapted to that in Brisbane?
Yeah, I guess it takes a bit of time. I guess early on you sort of think you're doing pretty well, living away from home and cooking for yourself and cleaning and all that. And looking back on it, I probably wasn't the best at it. And now I've sort of started getting the groove of all that stuff. But living away, I guess moving internationally would be very hard. I guess moving into states not as hard as that. I've got family over here as well, so made the move a bit easier. I'm fully so yeah, it makes it easier, and then parents visit a fair bit. I go back to Perth.
I guess when the AFL goes international, like that's when we'll like get like more of those like situations there. But I feel like that might be a long way away.
Yeah, it's a fair bit off. Yeah, it's a fair off for that happens.
Now, here's a question I've always wanted to know from like a footy player, because like I've always been like big into like my AFL fantasy and dream team. Like, do you guys like ever check like your stats like fantasy at all at like halftime or quarter time or anything?
No, we can't. Quarter time, we haven't got any phones. But I don't know. There may be a few boys that are conscious of it, especially after the game. You definitely are. Yeah, check to see how you've gone. And we got a fantasy comp, little draft we've done. So there's a bit of banter around that. Blokes have got other team members on their team and kind of get them to
put yourself as captain for you.
No, I didn't drive myself. I was smart. Don't put the pressure on myself.
No, I guess that's not. What a bit of worse thing. Like it'd be like a motivator for you as well. Like, oh, if I just take like. If I just get 30 like cheap disposals, like, I'm gonna win this week.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I might see if I can trade myself.
But yeah, I need to get onto our Patreons. The Sokkah Pod has a Patreon. We're crowdfunded by our fans somehow. We appreciate you guys so much. And one of the benefits of being in our Patreon is that you get shout outs every week. So big ups to Ryan Robinson, Milan Kasari, Oscar Brotherson, Joe Kay, Andy Tin, Craig Richards, John Morris, Harry Russell, your mate. You went to school with him.
Harry Russell?
Yeah, in your year. Was he in your year? Yeah. Who else we got? We got Luke Kelly, Harry, Dennis Fernandez, Ben Robson, Taylor Morris, Ben Krizik, your math teacher.
Krizik. Yeah. My God.
We've got Natasha Williams, Andrea, Jacob Colangelo, Jordan Smith, Jordan Waters, David Clark, Fraser Minham, and Glenn Oliviero. Thanks, guys, for being our Patreon members. We appreciate it so much. Petta, tell us about your new job that you recently started, because I'm interested in this.
Oh,
I've lost you completely there the entire time.
I'm just saying.
The entire time. It's just, you were speaking another language, and I was like, please don't be directing this at me because I can't hear.
So, Petta, recently you started a new job. How's that going for you at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. You know, bit of a hit in the face, full-time work, I think. Get home and all I want to do is sleep and don't have any time to play PlayStation with my mates that much anymore. And got my first pay slip on Tuesday, so I think that was the biggest positive I've taken out of it.
Were you surprised on how much tax was taken out of that?
I was a bit disappointed. You know, ScoMo's kids are going to now go education paid for by me, I think. But,
yeah,
you know, he's doing a pretty good job at the moment, so I don't mind paying for it.
So you work in like an insurance company, hey, or something like that?
Yeah, insurance broking.
And like, what does that entail? Or like, you don't know yet? You just get the coffees for everyone.
We have like, we have like clients, and so they come to us with like what they need to protect, and we go to the insurers like your Alliances and your QBEs that the big companies like that and try and get the best policy for them to cover them when they need, and then they pay us a fee for that.
So I know a guy who's an AFL footballer. He plays for Brisbane. What kind of policy does he need for insurance and all?
Liability, I'd say. I'd go liability to protect himself and to protect others that he's running into, because we've seen a few people early on in the season try and take him on. Brandon Matera, won't mention any names, and didn't end up too well for him.
Now, Stars, like just like with playing footy as well. When was it? Like I've experienced like interviewing like massive like footballers and like Vuj and all that. When was the first time you just like, holy, like wow, like this guy's like a legend, and like I'm like supposed to like play on him or something? Well, like when was that first time that like that hit you?
I reckon the first day I was at the club, I was walking around, and so I wear glasses, so I didn't have my contacts in. They hadn't come yet. They hadn't come over to Brizzy yet. And walking down the corridors, and we're getting like a bit of a tour. And we're walking down, and I can see there's two people having a chat down the hallway. Just like 20 metres away from us. We start walking down. He goes, "Here, this bloke. This is Luke. Luke Hodge." Oh, fuck. And then that was pretty cool. It was a teammate, but he's one of the legends of the game. That was pretty cool to meet him.
Yeah. So for our listeners, Luke Hodge, he played like 2,000 games for Hawthorn, then had like 2 seasons at Brisbane. That's a legend of the game. His equivalent would be like Lee Broxham for Melbourne Victory, like it's something along those lines. Going on from that, we do have some awesome Q&A questions we did ask on Twitter. We got like 1 million of them. Now, Petta, have you got these up?
Yeah, I think I should start with one up. Yeah, I actually got Instagram direct messaged when someone found out that I was on this podcast, and they obviously have to be a close friend of Brandon's, but I don't think they're using their real name. Their name came up as Wilbur, which I assume is a burner account because no one's going to have that kind of a name.
Yeah.
And it's actually a question for Joe, but it's directed at Brandon, and it was, is the reason you've got Brandon on the podcast because you're looking for a new sponsor from Tinder or Bumble? Please ask Brandon about his online girlfriend and how it's going.
All I'll say is if Tinder or Bumble do want to sponsor us, jump on board. We do have another $10 Patreon tier for corporate sponsors, which is available at the moment. So I'd be more than welcome. Brandon, do you want to answer the rest of it?
I'm not sure what's going on there. But, thanks for your question. I just think just keep your mouth shut, mate. Yeah, just talking rubbish.
Now, one of our biggest fans, a Chicken Treat fan club, he's also a massive Glory fan and a Brisbane Lion fans. Not sure how that works.
It's a double whammy.
He asked 4 questions. I'll pick the best one. And that is, when will Hipwood learn how to take a contested mark?
See, that's a whack. He's got it right though. He's taking a few, hasn't he?
Maybe get
Petta over to teach him. Yeah, get Petta over to teach him.
I don't think that would do him any good.
Look at that chest, mate. Yeah.
Now, like it was a rumour back in the day that Petta did have the best handball in the PSA. Is that still true?
It was the best kick over 25 metres, by the way, Joe. And the rumour was started by me. And I'm the only one who still buys into the rumour. But it's definitely true.
Cool. We've got another question here from Stephen. And he says, what position would you play, Brandon, if you could play soccer?
I reckon I'd go like CDM sort of.
Defensive
CDM
midfielder.
Sort of spot. Yeah, I just love the hard ball.
Like,
blokes out.
Would you be that Kante kind of player, which like runs around the park all day, or that just like big like body like Matic, who like nothing gets past?
I'll say a combo of the two. I'm not
interesting.
Yeah,
not too late.
Sneak forward around. Just hit bangers from top of the box as well. It's great.
Now, Petta, have you found another good Q&A?
I do. I have it from Finn Sangali, and he said he'd like to know what it's like being the Prince of Bedford.
Well, he took over it a little bit while he was there. He was a Prince of Bedford for a little while. No, I haven't been there for a while. I don't know if I can claim it anymore.
We've also got a question from Waterboy, and this one will make you think, Brandon. He says, with the international rules side in a goalkeeping crisis since Dustin Fletcher has retired, who is your pick to be the new long-term goalkeeper for the international rules side?
Well, that's a good one, and I'm gonna choose a Brisbane boy, Harris Andrews. He's got the longest limbs you'll ever see. Oh, he's go-go gadget in special arms. Yeah, he'd be up there, but I don't know who else I'm trying to think. Like a Robbie Tarrant or full back sort of centre half back sort of bloke, sort of pretty long, and yeah, those two come to mind.
Like when you're playing as well, like is there selection for the international rules side? Is that always on the back of your mind, or?
Yeah, I always try and put my hand.
The main reason, like you play AFL, is to get selected for the international rules.
Yeah, definitely. Even just around the room, sometimes it's just pick the soccer ball up and snap juggling and launching something like that.
Now, Petta, you've got another question.
I do. It's actually tweeted in from me, and it goes, weird question, but out of curiosity, who has the highest recorded speed in an AFL game at the Brisbane Lions?
It would be Charlie Cameron, I believe. 35.3.
That's pretty quick.
And what have you been recorded at, out of curiosity then?
35.29 kilometres an hour.
Must have got my stats wrong, I think.
Now, so I've got a question. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, that's all right.
Okay, I've got a question from Tommy. He says, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being strongly agree, how much do you agree with the following statement? And that is, AFL players are just goalkeepers with better fitness.
I'll say maybe I'll say 3.
Yeah, okay.
Because I guess there is some, not all, like Dane Zorko and Lockie here, I would say they're not too much of a goalkeeper, but they're some of the best players in the world. But then, yeah, the guys like Harris Andrews, as I mentioned.
Because like I play indoor soccer, and like every now and then we'll get like a footy player in as goalkeeper, and like he's always 10 times better than like anyone on the pitch.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. Yeah, I'm not sure about
that. Pet, have you got one?
Yep. Hayden Powell says, does Stars remember absolutely manhandling the Swan District Colts during the 2017 final series?
I do remember that game. I don't know if I manhandled them. I think we manhandled them that day. I think we won by 100 points. So I do remember that game.
Now, Stars, with the A-League coming back soon, who's your pick to take out the A-League championship if that does come back?
It's got to be the Glory, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. Who's your favourite Glory player?
Oh, geez, put it on the spot. Oh, Kenedy's.
Another good answer. No, everyone loves him. It's a sensible answer.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Pet, are there any more questions you wanted to ask Stars?
I think that's about it. But there was a rumour floating around during the week when I found out that Trent couldn't be on the interview. And I've just got to ask Trent maybe on the next podcast. It might have been due to a photo of him circling around with a photo of Brandon's ex-girlfriend at a nightclub. And we think Trent might have been a bit too scared to face Brandon face-to-face, even though it's via computer. But there is a few rumours floating around. A couple of boys just wanted to know if there was anything behind that and if you still hold a grudge or anything, Brandon.
No comment.
Now, on that bombshell, I've heard Trent had his mother's birthday dinner, so we'll take that answer.
Okay. Yeah, if that's what he wants to call it, we'll call it that.
on that bombshell, we'll leave it at that. Brandon, thank you for coming on. All the best for the rest of the season, except against Carlton.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Petta, you've been an awesome co-host, and hopefully we can get you back on soon as well.
Cool. Thank you. And see
Hey
you
guys,
guys.
yeah.
Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.